Derek,
Yes.
I sent you another email.
My audio on.
All right. We got another minute or so. All right. 4 o'clock. I'll call the March meeting Freetown Board of Selectmen to order. Tim has a statement that KP.
I unmuted it and didn't. I wasn't getting any audio back.
Tim, if you could read the statement from KP.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. The first item, or the item on the agenda in general, was emergency preparedness for ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, potentially including but not limited to. And the first item that I have here, David, is emergency declaration.
Okay. We have put together an emergency declaration. We did run it through town council. We did not act on it at the last meeting, but after consultation with council yesterday, he has determined that now would be the time to seek the board's action so that we would be eligible for all state and federal funds that may become available.
All right, thank you. Any input on that from Lisa or George?
Nope, I'm going to make a motion to declare a state of emergency for the town of Freetown for the use of receiving funds from MEMA and FEMA or any other state agency, and not to change the direction of the board.
Second that motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes.
Grenwell?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan, yes.
Are you adopting the declaration as written, I guess? Is that correct?
So my motion was to do it for the use of FEMA and MEMA or any other state funding that we might get, but I don't want it to change whatever the board may do pursuant to working conditions.
All right, so the declaration that was prepared and sent to the board, that's on the side now.
Say that again.
We're not adopting that. The whereas now to for document that was presented to the board.
No, we are.
All right, okay.
I just want to let me make this clear because there was confusion at the last meeting about some of the motions that were made. So the only reason I'm saying, so say we vote to ensure that essential personnel are working at town hall, I don't want to change that part of it. So that would be the board's prerogative at that point. And I don't think it interferes with the whereas.
Okay.
All right. Next item on the agenda was care of first responders. And I believe I know most of the issues, but David, if you could just fill us in so we are totally clear.
I didn't hear what you said.
On the care of first responders, I know there's an issue in relation to a letter from both the fire and police unions jointly about an issue they had about basically sick leave. That can be discussed, but do you have anything else?
I have not. I had offered to both unions to discuss this. I know that, the board intent is to make sure that the police and fire, all public safety officials are properly cared for and covered. It's basically up to the board to, if you want me to continue in terms of meeting with those two unions, I'd be happy to do that. If you want to do it as a personnel function or as a board, I'd be happy to do that. They're asking for us just basically to respond because they had gotten a number of questions from their membership asking if 111F would be applicable in the case of them contracting the virus while performing their duties as public safety officials.
What is 111F, David?
Okay, David.
It's injured on duty.
George, and so anyone else that's listening, 111F is a section of the general law that covers police and fire personnel when they are injured on duty. Unlike other workers who are injured on duty, they do not come under the workman's comp laws. 111F specifically addresses any injury that they would have. What the issue, and David can fill in a little bit more as he needs, the issue is whether or not 111F would cover a fire or police officer who may become ill from the virus. And as a side note, the town has a insurance policy through Maya that allows for up to $1,000, I believe $1,000 or up to $1,000 a week for any reimbursement to the town for any firefighter or police officer that are injured. Now, I believe, and David, please fill in if you don't, that David spoke with Maya about this provision, and
I didn't speak to him about this for this specific provision, 111F. We did receive notice from Maya concerning workman's comp, in that there would be no coverage for town employees for coronavirus under workers' comp. I'm not saying that that is exactly the case with the public safety personnel. Once again, I would recommend that we probably have not a face-to-face, but a camera-to-camera meeting with the unions and talk to them about what their concerns are and seek the advice of counsel. I did send an email to counsel. He got back to me and said that this is an issue in a number of communities, and that if we wanted to discuss this further with him, I didn't seek his counsel or advice at that point, that we should feel free to call him. So I can't specifically give you a legal opinion from town council at this point.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
may I?
go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, thanks. So I have spoken to two of the people that sent the letter as the personnel chair. And I think it's much simpler than that. And I don't mind being part as the personnel chair to do that video conference with you, David, and also 3 of the members that sent the letter. I think it's this. I think if they get coronavirus right now and they need to self-quarantine, then is the town going to pay them or not? And my position is, and we can discuss this further once we know exactly where they're from. I think the problem is that, and I think the disconnect is that we're asking people to work from home and they're still getting paid, which we totally get. That was a board decision. And I think that we should somebody contact that coronavirus, are we going to pay them while they're self-quarantine? I think that is the basic of where we're coming from. So again, I wouldn't mind sitting in on that conference call.
I think that that's a reasonable approach, and I would have no problem with that. I think we need to know specifically what their concerns are and how we can address them.
Yeah, I think, David, that's exactly where it's coming from. I don't think they anticipate being out of work for 40 days or 50 days. I don't think that that's what they're looking for. But should they come in contact with that disease and we ask them to self-quarantine, right? Whether there's a possibility the test didn't come in or whatever, and we're asking them to stay off work, I don't think they should use their sick time or their personal time or their vacation time. I think they're just making sure that we want to make sure that they're taken care of without using any of their time.
Once again, that sounds reasonable to me.
Okay.
George, do you have any comment?
Not on this issue, no. I think it has to be looked into a little further, make sure that they are covered.
All right. Okay, my only comment is this, is that it doesn't appear that they would be covered under section 111F, as from the letter I received or I saw from them, they were wondering if that was the case. As I don't think as of this point we should do that, but I do agree with Lisa and David, and yes, we're going to see that they are paid for whatever time they may lose. That doesn't seem like it's going to be a problem at all. Any other input?
No, I think that this is probably a good time to just make sure, and I know, David, you've been working on this, Allie's been working on this, the school district has given us some supplies for them. Carlton and Gary have done a great job in trying to secure all the PPE that they require and need, but also that we continue to do that. And I just want to thank all of the first responders for going out every day, protecting the town, even in the wake of this, invisible disease out there.
All right. I would accept a motion on whatever action you want to do.
I think we should, like we initiated, David and I do a conference call with them, and then we bring it back to the board for a vote.
Okay.
I have been working the whole PPE supply issue. I did receive word yesterday that the fire chief has got a number of N95 masks in, and they have been distributed to the police, the fire, obviously EMTs, Board of Health, and the Council on Aging. The regional school also was willing to provide us with some non-N95 masks, which I asked Carlton to find out or get in touch with Superintendent Medeiros to, acquire those masks. We also did contact dentists, nail salons, American, and Amazon, which is not as, we weren't as successful with them. But I feel that we have to keep that supply chain open, and that, what we have now may be sufficient for now, but I think that heading down the road, we got to keep our eye on the fact that, we may have to go, like I said, go out to actively seek alternative sources if we start running low on supplies.
All right. George, do I have a second to Lisa's motion?
I didn't make a motion.
Oh, I thought that was.
No. I just said we'll bring it back to the board.
All right. So I guess if we could just, for formality, just that to end this discussion right now, say the motion that you and David will contact the unions and bring in any and all form of more concerns back to the board. That'd be all right.
All right, I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
A motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I make a motion to send a letter to Amazon with our, with the town's disappointment in not trying to help us during this event?
I would go. George, you have any
Second.
input?
No,
Okay.
I think that's not a bad idea.
You know, with their substance, shall we say, in their lack of cooperation here or goodwill, it seems, I think that's appropriate. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Ms. Pacheco, just
Yes.
for the record. Mr. Grunwald,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan, yes. Okay, the next item is additional cleaning supply or services. David, can you give a little bit more input on that?
We just put on what was on the last meeting. That necessarily is not something that we really need to discuss today.
Okay, all right, we'll skip over if that is.
That comes back to the whole sanitizer wipes issue, which we once again, we are actively working on that.
All right, the last thing is the stay-at-home order issued by Governor Baker on March 23rd. David, you want to fill in a little bit? Or
okay. Well, let me. I have just an operational update I'd like to go through with the board about things that have been happening here. From our end, we did get a grant in for $5,500 from Public Health to deal specifically with COVID-related expenses and for potential salaries. And I had a discussion with Derek that money might be appropriate to pay the expanded hours of our public health nurse. So just to let you know, that had happened. Council on Aging, our brown bag program had been canceled by the company that generally offers it, or the agency, I should say. The Council on Aging stepped up and put together bags for 100 seniors, including a very timely and donation by the Stop and Shop with chicken and meat and vegetables, in addition to the normal bag. We met today. We had employee volunteers. We had the highway department. We packed 50 bags today. We're going to pack 50 more for tomorrow to be delivered to seniors that are out in the community that may need those supplies. And I just want to recognize Barbara and Council on Aging, as well as the highway, and all those volunteers that stepped up today, the employees that are non-essential that came out today to help, to bring the groceries to the seniors and to pack the bags, and also to recognize Stop and Shop as a good corporate citizen and neighbor to the town. The town's really fortunate to have them in the community. Next thing is we did have an all-employee meeting yesterday on Zoom, including both essential and non-essential employees. We discussed every department had an opportunity to discuss via a roundtable discussion, specific things that needed to be addressed, including operations for payroll and for bill payment. We discussed the enforcement issue with the governor's advisory on non-essential businesses. We talked about the roles of the inspectors and what was expected of them in terms of conducting face-to-face inspections, which we don't want people doing at this point. We also we had sent out a reporting form to all to the department heads to fill out on behalf of themselves and their employees regarding projects and tasks that they're working for at home. And I guess the other thing I would like to come back to is the whole issue of the essential employees having to come in 2 days a week. I know the board did issue in order to have those employees come in to work. And while I agree with the board in terms of their desire to do that, after discussion with all of the department heads and basically with all the essential employees, it's really honestly and truly nothing that can't be done remotely. And it would be my recommendation once again to have only the essential employees coming into the building and doing things that they can absolutely not do at home, to get into the building and get out of the building as quickly as possible. I know that that's probably not a popular opinion, but in the safety and health of our employees, and I want to say, I say this with all honesty, that we have a group of dedicated employees that love their jobs, but they also love their families, they love their children, they love their parents, and we don't want people coming into this environment not knowing whether it's completely sanitary or not, whether the person who was here before them, didn't wash their hands or touch something that they shouldn't have touched and now is on the surface. And at least working at home, they're in a controlled environment where they know the counter is clean, they know the door knobs are clean, they know that they're in no public threat for their health, and their families aren't. So I would, once again, I'm recommending to the board, and the other thing to keep in mind too is that we have a number of not elderly. I'm probably the oldest of all of them, but we do have a number of employees that are older, and we have a couple employees that have kids. I think in an abundance of caution, which is kind of an overly used phrase at this point, I think we have an obligation to take a look at protecting their health. So my recommendation, once again, would be to limit time in the town hall to time that to do essential tasks. And for example, we have mechanisms for meal distribution. We have mechanisms for them to operate online through Office 365 and through our mail program. We have the capability to do meetings on Zoom. There's really no essential task right now in town hall or any town office, actually. I'm using town hall as an example, but to require people to come in and potentially endanger their lives. So I've said my piece. And
David, having heard all of that, I just want to bring up an issue here. As a matter of fact, there's a number of things that I want to go over. But the first on my list is at the last meeting that we had, we voted a policy for the town hall. And as far as I can tell, that policy wasn't written or implemented or followed. And can you review that with us? What the vote?
You have to be a little bit more specific than that, George. What specifically was written and what was not followed?
Specifically, Lisa made a motion, and I'll let Lisa tell us what that motion was exactly, so that I won't say anything erroneous. So can you tell us what that motion was, Lisa? And then I'll continue.
So I reread the minutes today, and the minutes really reflected that all non-essential personnel be able to work from home and give a weekly log to the town administrator. And Tim, if you could find that, I'll have him read it. But essentially, this is and all essential personnel be required to work in the office 2 days a week and to give the board a schedule of when they would be there. But the one thing that I was concerned about, and I've gotten some feedback on, is that what is essential and what is non-essential. And I know that because I still have the what I used last week to talk about. When I was talking about non-essential personnel, I really was talking about, and you can see it's right there, Pam, Nadine, Chandler, Neil, Cheryl, Isabel, and Lynette. And I also said that unless it was directed to work by their board, commission, committee, or department head. So if a department head of a non-essential personnel member, let's just say, for instance, Jessica said, I really need help today, Isabel, you have to work with me, then that person would have to work. Or, you know.
I have no problem with that.
So that was my motion, but here, I think, so I called yesterday because, as you and Derek both know, there was an issue going on that I was trying to help with. And I couldn't find Derek. And I know, Derek, you answered me, you were out at a meeting, and thank you for responding to me. But these are the things that are gonna happen right now where we need people in the office, where especially, and I'm sorry, Derek, you are essential. You are probably more essential right now than you could ever be essential in your life. You are the Board of Health, you are our health agent, and this is a health crisis. And David, same thing as you, you're our town administrator. So I believe that you two are the most important people to be in the office. So that being said, I didn't talk about libraries, and I didn't talk about libraries the first time, although I do believe that they need to be closed. And I didn't talk about highway because in a snowstorm, those people are essential. Well, I still think that they're essential. So those departments I didn't speak about. I really was only speaking about that, whether it was captured the right way or not, I don't know. Whether I was not clear enough, I have no idea. But Tim, could you write back my motion, please? Yes. So I guess
We did issue a log. We did issue a log. So we are doing that part of it. There's never been a discussion or a dispute about having it. For example, if Jessica needed Lynette to come in, I don't think that would ever be an issue. We had people coming in today to volunteer to do the groceries that were non-essential personnel. I don't think that that's an issue from this end, but we did, as part of that building, I guess maybe the misunderstanding came from the fact that I put a very specific building closure policy together that was included as part of everybody's packet. And that in that policy, it specifies who is essential and who is non-essential. And I think that if there was the disagreement about who was essential and who was non-essential, the discussion should have taken place at that point and said, hey, I don't agree with this, and have.
David, can I interrupt you can I interrupt?
Yep.
I have here with me the essential services definition from the governor. And I would like to review some of it with you. And this, by the way, this list is based on federal guidelines. Now, public health is at the top of this list, which would be Derek. So that's number one. So anyone that's part of the public health should be available. Also, it lists workers who support food, but that doesn't really apply to us. Of course, all first responders, law enforcement, public
All
safety.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all there. Hang on, bear with me. Water and wastewater employees, operational staff are considered essential services. Transportation and logistics, which would include the highway department, is listed. Public works, just about all of public works is considered essential services. Also, there's one line here which I'll get back to later, but I want to read it. Support to ensure the effective removal, storage, and disposal of residential and commercial solid waste and hazardous waste, which is trash, basically.
The transfer station, I talked to you about that a week ago, and I thought we had jointly agreed that we were gonna close the transfer station because of the whole issue with money and the potential of the virus being on the money. I had a conversation about that.
That is correct, David. And I want to come back to this part of the discussion. At that time when we spoke, I did not have a copy of this essential services bulletin.
That just came out yesterday.
Okay.
That was released yesterday. The governor issued an advisory. The advisory is not an order. There's a distinction between the two. It's advising the public. It's not ordering the public.
He's advising us this, and it's also, like I said, this is the federal assessment of what we should be doing. And I'm just going down the list of what's recommended, okay?
I have no problem with that.
And it even lists election personnel, which kind of surprised me. But construction is listed. Inspections of elevators, lifts, buildings, plumbing, etc. That's also listed as essential.
Okay. George, just a minute. We don't have elevator operators, so I'm
just reading what's there.
Right.
Okay?
George,
I mean, you want to.
Good point. I'm just gonna move to the point.
Okay. Critical government workers, construction workers who support construction, and it lists a whole bunch of things. So bottom line is, oh, by the way, City Hall in Boston is open. Most of the other town halls that I've polled are open, not to the public, but they're manned. Also,
that's all what I'm reading on the managers group, the listserv. But once again, that's a discrepancy between, disagreement between you and I.
Yeah. Okay.
And last I heard, City Hall people were working remotely. So that was on the news the other night.
So, but anyways, just to condense this a little bit, public health, public works, first responders are definitely required. And so that is an issue. And also, just as a point of order, not a point of order, but a point that I'm trying to make, at our last meeting, we were told that, you still there? Hello?
Yeah, hold on, George. I just had to get the dog in. Pardon me. Life goes on. I heard, I just stepped out to get the dog in.
Oh, okay. So we were told that the Department of Public Health was closed, but that's not the case. The public health is open for Massachusetts. And I just kind of don't understand that, why we would get erroneous information. So anyways, having said all that, I want to get back to the transfer station. That's a public health issue. The transfer station should be open. And what I would recommend is that we open it, but we do not charge. So there's no exchange of paper, money, or anything else. And we can put a temporary kind of barrier between the shed that the employee works in, so that the people coming in don't get too close to that. And she or he can direct whoever comes in with trash where to put it. So they're not at risk at all. But leaving all the trash in people's homes, I think that's a dangerous thing. And we have, our contractors are picking up trash every day. So if they can do it, I mean, this just doesn't seem right to me. So anyways, that's for starters. So go ahead.
All right. Lisa, do you have a comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing. The highway department should definitely be working.
There's one person working every day. They've been here they've been here both Monday, Tuesday, and I want to say they were here Monday because it was a storm yesterday, on Monday. They were all called in Tuesday, I'm not so sure. They're all here today to help with the brown bag, so.
Okay, well, brown bag, that's not really their job. They're volunteering, that's great. But
I'm sure this.
the DPW is considered essential services. They should be out there working. There's no reason at all why they can't.
George, if you could just get to the point though, George, of what we understand, we all read the list, okay? And
Okay,
not to belabor the point, but what is your point?
my point is very clear, Charlie. Okay, my point is that anything that is really considered essential should be open. And Department of Public Works, in other words, the Highway Department, there's no reason in the world why they shouldn't work.
All right, but
So,
as
and
David
the
said-
transfer station, the
Right.
transfer station should be open. So those are two things to start with, okay? Go ahead, Charlie.
Right, but as George, as David said, they have been here, they were here today. You say brown bag was volunteer work. Well, I don't think that way, okay? The other people who came in, the other employees, they were also working. My feedback on the transfer station is that no garbage goes to the transfer station.
Recyclables.
It's large recyclables. Things like washing machines, appliances, other things like that. So I don't think that the issue of people having rubbish in their yards, as you seem to believe, that's a correct notion, George.
But Charlie,
George, I'm saying there's no, what is being dumped at the transfer station, large items that people may have. And I don't see where that is, if you have, we'll say you had an appliance that you couldn't hold off on that for a time in these troubling times.
but
Okay,
you're missing the
All
point,
right.
Charlie.
Oh, no, I don't think I'm missing the point at all,
May I?
George.
Well, you're missing my point.
May I?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I think that under the motion that I made, it said that department heads can require their employees to work. Chuck is still a department head. If he requires his people to work and he gives them work to do, we don't have a say in that. So that's how I made my motion. I stand by that motion. As far as the transfer station, again, people are not supposed to leave their house unless it's a really good reason. And I don't think people are going to be dropping off wash machines there, but there may be things that are, hazardous to their environment that they wanted to get rid of. And I don't think that you're going to see 20,000 people and we're not going to allow that. But if somebody needs to get rid of something, Vicky should be there a couple of days a week. That's how I feel. Like, look, we cannot shut down town government. We're doing the best we can. We're pulling back on a lot of the services that we already provide, that we should be able to provide services for our town residents because they're paying for them. And at some point, it's all going to hit the fan. We're not going to pay for overtime because we're not going to be able to afford it. And things at the transfer station actually can get done. We know that things can get done, even if she's just, they're cleaning up her space. That's, I don't know that. And again, as far as the highway department, that comes under Chuck. We've said that since day one, whether he's here or not, unfortunately, he's still the department head.
All right. So if I understand your comment, Lisa, so the library, we have spoken about library, but now you're saying the library trustees are the people who are going to decide whether or not library is open.
That was part of my motion. So say, I know, we closed everything to the public, and that definitely should still be But if the library trustees say, Dorothy, we need you to get this, this, and this done before the end of the year, or before she leaves, because you know where she's leaving, that's under their purview.
But, okay, and I agree on that reasoning, but as, to go back to our reasoning for not having them come in is, can she do that remotely? And I think, as David has said, most of the work that is required can be done remotely. And just as a sideline, so we all know, I got an email from my insurance agency yesterday saying that, you know, the people who, if I had a problem, something we could contact us, but that with a very few exceptions.
Oh.
Okay, please, you know, I don't like, I didn't interrupt you, Lisa, please.
No, you were cutting out, honey.
Oh, okay, well,
Sorry.
all right. Once you're, all right. And the insurance company was saying that most everyone would be working remotely from home, but they could do the business. And that's, I think, what is the issue here is, can they do the business of the town remotely?
All of the essential services that we provide, we can provide them through the technology that we currently have available to us. Once again, you know, I can't stress it enough. I'm concerned about people coming in and out of the building, not knowing where they've been, whether they have the virus, don't have the virus. I know that their homes are safe. They know that their homes are safe. I know that I'm not going to have them come into the building, touch something, bring it home to their wife or their kids or their families, and be there, you know, to say, oh, you know, we did it because we just wanted somebody to sit in an office for 8 hours, when they could be doing that same job effectively remotely without any risk of contracting the environment. Their home environments are safe. I can't guarantee you that here.
All right, you know what, to put this to bed, I'm gonna reiterate my motion that I made last week. I'm also, and David, please, I just as an aside, when I made my motion, I didn't take, unfortunately, or whatever, I didn't read off your list because I made my own motion, and I did not adopt.
I misunderstood that.
Yeah, that's okay. It's hard, right? This is all new to us and we're on video and we can't really feel each other out or ask questions as much as we want to. I totally get that. But no one can second this, or everybody can say, I don't really care. Here it is. This is my motion to adopt the same motion that I made last week to let it up to the boards, the commissions, the department heads, or the committees that if they need their employees to be there, they need to be there. I want all essential personnel to work at least 2 days a week, but the board needs to know what 2 days are they? Are they Monday, Wednesday? Are they Tuesday, Wednesday? Are they Wednesday, Thursday? I think that we need to know that because
we can post up a Google spreadsheet to that.
Okay, but when there's an emergency here, David, you're far away. When there's a Board of Health emergency, yes, I can find Derek, but he's far away. There are things going on in town, and you know this, that we need to take care of ASAP. And I'll make that a separate motion after this, that the transfer station be open at least 2 days a week and that there's no charge, and nobody at the transfer station should be touching anything, and only if people need to get rid of something. We're not taking washing machines. We got to put that up on the website. We're not taking anything like that, but there might be recyclables that people want to get rid of or have to get rid of because it's a health hazard in their own house. So that would be my motion.
I'll second that motion.
All right, you have that, Tim? Tim, do you have that? Just
Yes,
so
yeah, I'm gonna have to go through the recording because that was very long.
yeah.
If you could make it a little more succinct, it'd be much appreciated.
Right. Lisa, can you make it a little bit more distinct for Tim so he can read it back to us? So
Yes, I'll read it just like I read last week. That non-essential personnel, unless directed to work by their board, commission, committee, or department head, can work from home and must give us a weekly log through the town administrator, that all essential personnel are required, including the highway department and the transfer station, are required to work at least 2 days a week, whether it be Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday on site. And as long as we have a log of when these people are gonna, when these people are gonna be on site.
All right.
All right.
What we will do for the log, in terms of the schedule log, I will have either Tim or Ally put together a Google spreadsheet, which we'll send it out to everybody. We'll have them fill in their times, and the log will be available to view in an email by clicking on a link to see when people are there and the times they're going to be there.
And David, you can say, I'm gonna work Monday, Wednesday, and downstairs is gonna work Tuesday, Thursday. But what I would really like is for town hall to be closed for a number of days before the Monday. Just because then we know that, there's some safeguards put in place for that.
So we shouldn't really do Friday, Monday. That means that it'll be closed for 4 days.
No. I want all work to be done between Monday and Thursday. So Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday? And
I actually think it would be better Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and hear me out on this.
Okay.
If you close it on Friday and you
Mhm.
keep it closed on Monday, then you have 4 full days, but any surface that's been touched with the virus have sat there and sort of deactivated.
Yep,
So,
yep,
it would be better
Totally
Tuesday,
fine.
Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay.
totally fine.
The problem with that is we're going to have more people in the building on those days. That's the only downside of that.
I think that we should look at this
Versus doing it
again.
Monday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Can we limit
sorry?
can we limit one person per office?
We already have that rule.
Okay,
We've already adopted that.
all right.
Okay, and again, this is only essential personnel who would be coming into the building and/or a employee that they needed for some.
Yeah,
All right,
yes.
I chime in?
go ahead, Derek.
If we're doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, this office can't function with having me and Jeff.
Yeah,
both
that's the problem with it. Yeah,
Well,
because Derek and Jeff would be in the same office at the same time.
well, that's why I was saying, like, maybe you have the top offices on Monday, Wednesday, and the bottom offices on Tuesday, Thursday. So then that way there's top floors closed.
All right, yeah. All right, that would work. My thing was to get the 4 days so that we're
I
not.
know. Look, here's this. I don't care what schedule you come out with, as long as department heads are there at least 2 days a week. And then you can send us your weekly, what the schedule is going to be, and we can go from there. I'm not,
All right.
that, at least I need to know who's in at what time in case I need to find somebody.
All right, Tim, you have all that? All right, so I'll just reiterate that town hall will be open on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, correct, folks?
I'm going to leave that up to David.
We can logistically work that out.
All right, so, all right, and we all understand that those are the only days that people will be in town hall. We all good with that? We good with that, George?
Yeah,
You good with that, Lisa?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And then the other thing is that the transfer station will be open,
2 days.
physically be there on 2 days. Now, here's a little, just so we all get clarity and we're not upset with things because we don't have a clear understanding. What days do you want the transfer station open? Because the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday would only work as being one day Thursday, and which is normally open.
Well,
So,
at the transfer station, you only have one person there in her office. Is that correct?
Or you have people coming in off the
No,
street.
no, but they don't go in the office. We don't
Well,
let them in. We should put a barrier so that any person coming into the transfer station does not go into that office. And when someone comes in, she can come out the door and talk to them 6 feet away, because all she has to tell them is where to put whatever it is they're bringing. And there's no transactions.
all right, is that clear with everyone?
yes,
All right,
So I
and
would say, to answer your question, Friday and Saturday would be good. Or Saturday and Sunday. I mean, either way would work for me.
well,
Yeah.
I just feel like everybody's home. Everybody's home anyway during the week now, so, you know, you know what, I'm gonna leave it up to George and the Board of Health Chair. I mean, the department head. So you and Derek can work on that schedule with David.
Okay,
all right,
so Derek, give me a call whenever you want to discuss it.
Okay.
all right, Tim, do you have a semblance of what's gone down there?
I don't. I'm gonna have to be doing the minutes from the recording after the meeting.
All right, I just don't want, I think that there's been a lot of misunderstandings on members of what was said and what's to be done. And I think that, you know, that's the real thing. It's a confusion on our part about what we were saying, and not so much the confusion on employees. So,
I agree.
so,
So that there is no confusion, are we all on the same page that Chuck is going to determine who works when and what?
He's a department head.
Yeah,
I don't know.
but, well, I don't know, I think that, well, that has to be monitored, all right?
Which monitor, Chuck?
Yes. Okay,
Well,
to be
Oh,
perfectly, I'm gonna be frank, George, I think it has to be monitored. Okay,
So-
how do you mean that, Charlie?
well, I don't want to get into too much of a discussion there, but I feel that, you know, that has to be monitored for the workers, how things are, you know. I don't think that Chuck should be going out and saying you're gonna all work together on a rebuilding a drain basin, all right, that type of thing. And then you have 5 or 6 employees all around each other, all trying to move and help each other move items and things like that.
That's a point well taken, Charlie. Why don't we
Okay.
give him a directive not to have his staff work together?
How about this? How about we have, so David, how is he giving you work now?
They, well, the original way was the list was coming through Chuck. And we would then hand it off to Eric. Lately, I've been directing Eric myself. In fact, one of the projects I have going on Friday is going to be over at the police station. We got to take the rebar off for the foundation for the tower. So I asked Eric to have, and I'm not going around Chuck. I did email Chuck at the same time, but to tell him, hey, I need 2 guys to do this. There was another incident this week where there was something that had to be done, and I emailed Chuck first and said, I'm asking, and I always CC Eric, so he's aware that we're all in the same loop, that, you know, this is what I would like to do it. And and to Chuck's credit, Chuck has actually been very responsive in terms of saying, yes, I'll do that.
So Charlie and David and George, if it's done the same way and it's given to David and David feels that it's safe, then they can proceed. If David deems that it's unsafe, that there's 5 guys working together, then no, that can't happen. Is that okay?
All right, I would just make the suggestion that possibly we limit projects to no more than a 2-man crew, and that, unfortunately, we're gonna have to use 2 different I think we should be using 2 different vehicles.
Yeah.
Agree.
All right, so, maybe somebody's gonna drive a dump truck somewhere and one's gonna drive a pickup. There's 3 pickups
Yeah,
there.
and we want to still do the social distancing. We don't want 2 guys, 2 feet away from each other, trying to load something and breathing in each other's face.
Right.
That's where the problems come in terms of
Yeah.
how do you get those kind of tasks accomplished without, proper distancing. We're living in a crazy time. This
We
is
are.
nothing anybody's ever anticipated in a million years that we'd be doing this. But, we're going to somehow get through it and we'll all be stronger for it. But these are the part of the challenges we're facing right now.
I agree. And I want to keep them as safe as possible, but I do think like right now they would be street sweeping. That's only a 1-man operation basically. So if we can continue and at least make our residents feel normal during an unnormal time, that things are proceeding and we're all doing the best we can, I think that that's all we can ask for.
Okay, yeah, I would agree that, with you, Lisa, that yes, street sweeping can be done. One person's in the sweeper, one's in a truck, maybe one's out on the road. That could be done. That might be something that get their minds off of things too. All right. So, Tim, do you think we need any motions, or are we?
Totally up to you guys.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to make it a little bit so that, the puzzle isn't 1,000 pieces. It's only maybe 350. All right. I'll make a call on Lisa's motions to.
You don't have a second yet.
Okay. All right.
Could we have the motion again, please?
Okay.
I would love to.
So you want to read back what you have or you want me to?
I don't have anything.
Okay. All non-essential personnel, unless directed to work by their board, commission, committee, or department head, should work remotely with a weekly log given to the town administrator of all work performed. That's number 1. Number 2, essential personnel are required to work at least 2 days a week and a schedule given to the town administrator. And number 3, that the transfer station be open at least 2 days a week. The schedule will be set by the Board of Health chair and the health agent, Derek, and given to the town administrator. Am I missing anything?
Highway?
And then the highway department will work as directed by the department head, but with the oversight of the town administrator to ensure that the work is A, necessary, and B, safe.
Okay. And if I could just add, Lisa, the days that the town hall will be open. Either do you want to list, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or do you want to list that it's 3, that will be limited to 3 days, as we had earlier discussed?
I would look to David for his input on that.
Okay, so I would ask that you say that the town administrator is given the authority to supervise the hours that the town hall are open to essential.
So noted.
Okay. Tim, you have that?
Yep, I will when I review the video.
Yeah, okay. Then Lisa's made a motion. And George, do you second that motion?
Yes, second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Ms. Pacheco,
Yes.
Mr. Grunwell,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan, yes. All right. I know that, well, I know, I don't know. I am of the understanding that Jackie wants to talk about the election. Is that correct, Tim?
Yes.
All right. So before that, if there's anything else that we need to have a discussion about,
I just, we want to give Derek, just let us give us an update.
okay.
Derek, could you do that in terms of where we're at?
Sure. Quite a bit to report today, actually. Yesterday, we were at 1,159 cases total in Massachusetts. Today, we are up to 1,838, increase of 679 cases. Bristol County has gone from 31 cases up to 67. Plymouth County has gone from 64 cases up to 101. We did report our second presumptive positive in town today. We did find out that the third that we were tracking ended up being negative, so that was good. And it actually just came across the news that the governor has closed schools from the April 6th deadline now until May 4th. And that will be for all schools and all daycare programs. That's my updates.
Okay. Thank you, Derek. Any other comments or issues?
No, but while we have the board, while we have Derek there, I know Derek has been working hard to ensure that that the governor's directive is being followed, especially with businesses. But I want to make sure that this board supports sending Derek out to businesses that are opening and they're not supposed to be opening. So I don't know how we all feel about that, but if businesses are not supposed to be open because they're not essential, they should not be open.
Derek and I had a discussion about that this morning. He is putting together a letter that is going to be hand delivered to each of those businesses, we think, specifically at non-essential businesses. And the enforcement will be either Derek or law enforcement, basically saying you're not classified as a essential business, therefore you need to close.
You know, I hate to do that because we welcome business, but that's, again, where we're at.
I have a question for you, Derek. If you were to do that and a business does not shut down, do you know what the authority is, a penalty, who could actually shut them down?
The order comes from me, but the enforcement can be done through the police department can help with that.
I believe it's a citation.
Okay.
I believe we have the authority to issue a citation.
All right.
Yes, I believe that there can be fines attached.
All right.
Can their license be temporarily pulled?
That's a possibility too.
Derek?
I would have to reread that. I did not see that as part of it, but I guess it could potentially, if they, if we told them to close, they didn't, we fined them, they still didn't, then I would assume that it could at that point, yes.
That's a good idea, actually.
I don't know about temporary, I think permanent, but
Well, either way.
but these are serious times. All right. Nothing else? Then Tim, is Jackie available or?
Yep, she's on the line.
All right. I'm going to recuse myself from this discussion, and I'm going to walk away. I'll still have the Zoom on, but I'm going to walk away.
All right, before we do, I just have one more item, and that is that I think we should resume our regular schedule in terms of having a meeting where we can actually conduct business other than related to COVID-19. And I would probably make the recommendation we do that this coming Monday and then figure it out from there. However, I still want to have a Wednesday meeting update every week, just to let you know what's happening in the community, what we're doing, and how things are going, and if there are issues that we can identify those issues at that time so that we can address them, quickly and efficiently.
So
Any thoughts on that?
Are you
No,
saying
feeling
Monday and
normal would be
Wednesday?
good.
Yeah, like a regular meeting, with all the issues that we would have been dealing with over the past 3 or 4 weeks, no COVID, and then Wednesday's COVID meetings,
Okay.
So
updates, COVID meeting, whatever.
are we saying Monday and Wednesday every week going
Yes.
forward?
Well, I don't know if Monday every week, but I know that we do have issues that are coming up. We did today get the Copart Class 2 application in. So that is something that's going to demand the full attention of the board in the upcoming month. We're going to have to research the statutory requirements, whether there's a timeline by which the board needs to take action. In which case, given the circumstances, we might be able to make a request that we extend, at least open the public hearing and extend it to a date in the future so that we can have time to properly not only have the public hearing, but be able to review the plans. I'm not quite sure how you would do that in a Zoom meeting. So there would be a whole bunch of technical issues that might be associated with holding a public hearing like that. So that's
David,
my plan, my thought.
I think it's gonna feel good for all of us to feel normal again and take on some of this work, so we're not backlogged. Also, I found out today, and I'm not sure if we got a formal letter, that Old Colony has decided that they're not taking any freshmen from Freetown this year at all. Right. I received an email from a concerned parent, and then I followed up with the superintendent, and that's the superintendent of the Freetown Lakeville Regional Schools. And yeah, he told our superintendent of schools, but he has failed, the superintendent of Old Colony has failed to send a letter to say that they're not going to take the 20 kids or so that they usually take. So we're going to need to speak about that as well.
Yeah, that's a big issue.
That's a huge issue, seeing that they want additional money in, at our special town meeting. That's a big issue. So that's something that we're gonna have to take a look at.
Lisa, is that a permanent decision on their part?
It seems as so, but, and this isn't on the agenda, so, but I think that we do have other avenues to look at. We have Bristol Plymouth, we have Diamond Regional. Maybe we should start looking at some of those moving forward. But they're only taking the current classes as such, and they're not taking freshmen this year.
All right, that's something I can work on.
Perfect.
So,
Was there a reason given, Lisa?
Not that I know of. I'm waiting still to get the letter. Supposedly it's on its way, but we haven't gotten it. But I will tell you that all the freshmen that have not been accepted have gotten the letter. So all the parents have the letter, but the town of Freetown does not.
Wow. All right.
all right, just on. I know,
Yeah, that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah, it's a big one.
but just to regress a little bit, in the opening, there was some, when we talked about, Amazon and so forth, I like to have the board send letters, especially the Stop and Shop. I mean, Stop and
They've been awesome.
Stop and Shop has really stepped up in this world, never mind for the town of Freetown, as have a number of large grocery distributors. So I think that, a letter, it's just, it can't compare to what we really need to do, but I think, they'd understand a letter, and it doesn't have to go to an attorney or go through an attorney.
No. Actually, we could do a proclamation. We could do some kind of a proclamation, which would be a little, something with the town seal on it that recognizes their efforts, and
that would be nice. Okay.
Yeah, let's work on that. That sounds really good.
All right. Tim, if Jackie's there or available, and I'll just recuse myself, time being. All right.
All right.
Okay, I'm here. A couple of weeks ago there, when I had come before the board, it was to see if the board was interested in having the governor put through a special act for us as Freetown in order to change the election date. And at that time, Lakeville was going to be keeping the April 6th date, which we're regionalized, so we both vote on the school committee members. So the special act we were going to give the governor was drawn up by Kopelman and Page to insert one paragraph that stated, even though we were having an election on a different date, that they would wait until our election was done if we chose to postpone it, and that the announcement would be made at that time. So it kind of covered us for the region part. So we decided, well, it was decided to go on with the April 6th date and not to change it. So now, in talking with the town clerk from Lakeville, I was notified that she had a selectman that really did not want to go through now with the April 6th. And this was just this week. Didn't want to go through with this April 6th date. And they
It happened today,
decided.
actually. They voted on it today.
Yeah, they were going to go with a June date. So what happened was, and I found that out. I pulled out the act of the region that was adopted in 2012, I'm sorry, because it states in there, and I emailed everybody the act there, the special paragraph that I was concerned about. In the event that the annual town election for the member towns occurs on a different day, at the expense of the district, a district-wide election shall be undertaken during the last 4 months of the fiscal date set by the district in consultation with the member towns. So what this act is saying, because now we're going underneath the governor's act, which is for all towns, saying that, hey, if you want to postpone the election until the end of June, anytime before the end of June, you can do that. So there's no special provision in there for the region like we were going to have before. So if we choose to do the different dates and keep the April 6th date, and they were going to change their date, then this act would still be active, saying that we would have to have another town election and the district would have to pay for it just for the two towns to get together to vote on this one position, which is the school committee, which is totally ridiculous because we know the district don't have that kind of money, and it would be ridiculous. So I think we need to revisit postponing the election based on, because now Lakeville's changing it. So what I did is I did contact the town clerk this morning, and I said, hey, I don't think that your town is aware of this provision in here, and maybe it's going to be both towns agreeing on an election date, or the district is going to have to pay for it. So I asked her if the selectmen had voted on that date yet, and she said no, they're supposed to vote at 11 o'clock this morning. So I said, well, I think if you could bring this to your attention of your town administrator, I'm going to bring it to my town administrator's attention too, this provision that's in there. And I think both towns need to get together, that both selectmen will have to meet. And you don't have to even, Kopelman and Page in the state both have advised the towns that you don't have to vote on a specific date, that you can just go with an undetermined date and decide maybe in May. If things change, you could have it in May, or if you want it in June. You just have to decide 20 days before the election. You can still use the ballots that have already been printed, and I tested my machines this morning, so that's good. So I'd have to hold another voter registration 10 days before, but you could wait until you decide, both towns decide on a date. So I had told her I was going to suggest that if our board was going to go forward with the postponing, to do it with an undetermined date, and if she could advise her selectmen the same. So she did get a hold of her administrator and suggested that undetermined date. Her board did vote this morning at 11 o'clock, and they voted to go to postpone it to an undetermined date. So I told her I would advise our board tonight. I did submit exactly what the motion would be as advised by the Secretary of State's office. So if we decide to postpone to an undetermined date, I think that's what we need to do right now, because we do not want the district to have to call the election and have to pay for it.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I did talk to Maureen Candido, who's the town administrator. She did inform me that they did vote to postpone to a date certain in the future, basically, and that, she explained the same reasons Jackie did in terms of how, whether we're, going to have having it on the same date and having the district pay for it and all of that. So it would require the board at some point in the future to get together, set a set date, and then move forward from there.
So given that that the governor has actually, advised us to stay home, unless it's an emergency, and given that, we don't want, and we can't have more than 10 people in an area at the same time, given the instructions of the governor, I just feel that it's probably the most wise thing to do at this point. I don't know, not Charlie, but George, how do you feel?
No, I agree with you.
Jackie, I have the motion in front of me, so if it's wrong, please correct me. But I'll make a motion to, pursuant to Section 1 of Chapter 45 of the Acts of 2020, and because of the state of emergency declared by the governor pursuant to Executive Order 591, declaration of a state of emergency, respond to COVID-19, the municipal town election scheduled for 4/07 is hereby postponed. Once we confer with the town clerk and the Freetown Elementary School and the Lakeville Board of Selectmen, it will be a date.
Okay, you need to correct the date, Lisa. The date of the election that is April 6th.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, so I'll make my motion with the 4/6.
Second that.
All right, right there.
Oh,
All right, I'll just do a formality. All motion made and seconded. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain, so I'll just poll Ms. Pacheco,
Yes.
Mr. Grenwell,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan abstains. Is there anything else?
No, can we have our Wednesday meetings in the morning and not in the afternoon if it's just going to be us?
Okay, no problem.
Lisa, the only reason it was this morning is I had a prior appointment.
No.
But I understand, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it's just going to be a working meeting, then that's fine.
I'm a morning.
And I'm going to keep it, honestly, we want to keep the meeting to discuss issues so that we aren't boxed into specific items. If we need to make a decision, we should have the ability to make that decision without any open meeting violations. So the intent is to make it as broad as possible in terms of any type of action that the board may so make.
Okay, yeah, I agree there, David. I think I'm all good with open meeting laws and so forth, but like I say, these are exceptional times. All right, if that is no other discussion, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Motion made.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
All right. Thank you.
All right, good night,
Good
everyone.
night.
Have a good night, everybody.
Aye.
Night. Thank you.
Cheers.